Jay Harris from the state. May I proceed? May it please the court. Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury. No one forced her hand. Today we heard the story about a casino owner, Avery Bancroft, and how she chose to bribe the head of the Midlands Gambling Commission. On April 16, 2015, the defendant, she invited the head of the Gambling Commission to her own casino. They went to the VIP lounge and they played a few hands of blackjack. And at their sides were briefcases. Before they left, they switched briefcases, and in that briefcase, the defendant gave to Chase Covington $200,000. Members of the jury, today, the defendant has already openly admitted that she bribed Chase Covington. But today's case was about blame. The defendant is now blaming undercover cop Mickey Keenan, saying that he forced her to make this bribe. But members of the jury, that didn't happen. The undercover cop simply presented her with the opportunity to show her true colors. And she did. She chose to bribe an official. No one forced her hand. Now, we as the state, we have a burden of proof in today's case. And we had to prove that the defendant had a predisposition to commit this crime. And we had to prove it to you beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, when I say the defendant had a predisposition to commit this crime, it simply means that the defendant was willing to commit this crime even before the undercover cop even showed up. And when I say beyond a reasonable doubt, that simply means that after hearing all the testimony, all the evidence and the facts in today's case, you cannot have any doubts based upon your own common sense or reason. And members of the jury, we have proven our burden to you beyond a reasonable doubt. Today we call out 3 witnesses before you. First, we called a bellhop that worked at the defendant's own casino, Devin Del Sesto. And she told you about the daily operations of the casino. She told you that how on April 16, 2015, Avery Bancroft and the head of the Gambling Commission, they met in that VIP room, and that's where the bribe went down. They switched the 2 briefcases. But members of the jury, before that, before Keenan ever showed up, on February 13th, she told you about a conversation she overheard Bancroft having. In that conversation, the defendant said, "If you are for sale, let me know. I'm willing to do whatever it takes." Secondly, we call Dr. Warren, a linguist. He told you today about the research that he recovered. He told you that he looked over all the conversations that Mickey Keenan had with the defendant and how he used the best practices. He asked open-ended questions, he dropped hints, and he let the defendant incriminate herself. And Mickey Keenan, he got up here and he told you the exact same thing. Over the investigation, he dropped hints, he asked open-ended questions. It was the defendant that brought up the bribe. Members of the jury, not only did Mr. Warren and Mr. Keenan say that, but the defendant, she took the stand today and she told you herself. Now, she tried to say at first that it was Mickey Keenan. He forced me. He manipulated me. But members of the jury, when she was questioned further, what did we hear? I had meetings between, it was me and Mickey Keenan. No, he didn't bring up a bribe. No, he didn't bring up money. No, he never forced me. No, he never threatened me. But I just assumed that he wanted a bribe. Members of the jury, it was of her own free will. No one forced her. The defendant had every single opportunity. She had every single choice to say no. She could have went to the different representatives on the board and told her what was going on. Members of the jury, she didn't. She went ahead and she made a bribe of her own free will. Corey Hyde, her own assistant, and she came up before you and she testified about the encounters that she had between the defendant and Mickey Keenan. She told you that on April 16th, they were supposed to have a meeting between Chase Covington and Avery Bancroft. before that meeting, she saw her boss shoving $200,000 into her briefcase, but Mickey Keenan was nowhere around, members of the jury. It was her doing it of her own free will. When Chase Covington didn't show up to that meeting, she stormed out with that briefcase in hand. And as you heard, Mickey Keenan had no idea where she was going, where she went. But Devin Del Sesso, she told you today. She met up with the head of the Gambling Commission by herself in that VIP room. She gave him a bribe. And that was of her own free will. The defendant had choices in today's case, and she chose to make a bribe. She talked to you about that day that she made the first move. The yes equals $150K. She crossed it out, $250,000. Members of the jury, when questioned further about that, did Mickey Keenan tell you to write that? No. Did Mickey Keenan mention money? No. Did Mickey Keenan mention the bribe? No. He simply slid me a napkin, and I wrote on it. Members of the jury, that is her own free will. Now, we as the state, we have the burden of proof, and we have proven to you beyond a reasonable doubt that it was of the defendant's own free will to make this bribe. But the defense, they also came up here, and they assumed an affirmative defense. And they had to prove to you by a preponderance of the evidence that the defendant was actually entrapped. Now, when I say preponderance of the evidence, it simply means 50% in the feather's weight. They had to prove to you that Mickey Keenan actually induced the defendant, forced the defendant to make a bribe. Members of the jury, you have heard no testimony to that fact today. Every single witness has told you, when I saw Avery Bancroft handing the money, it was her and her alone. When she wrote on the napkin, it was her and her alone. Members of the jury, this case is about choices. The defendant chose to make that bribe of her own free will. No one forced her hand. And that is why we are asking that you find the defendant guilty. Thank you.